Hello everyone, and welcome back to Behind the Cutscenes, a games industry podcast. I'm Jake Yoder, your host, and man, it has been a while. It's been a few weeks, but hey, we've got some great episodes coming up for you, including this one today. Today, we welcome to the podcast a few of the independent developers from D-Cell Games, the indie devs behind Unbeatable, an upcoming rhythm adventure game. Unbeatable is a game that I've had my eye on for about a year now, and I just so happened to reach out to the guys at D-Cell at the perfect time because, hey, their Kickstarter is out today. I'm going to have the link to the Kickstarter in the description, and I highly encourage you guys to check it out, and if you feel so inclined, throw them a few dollars. Now, specifically, we've got a few different guys on from D-Cell. We've got Andrew. Andrew is the director of Unbeatable, basically. He also works on art and programming and a few story things. He also technically came up with the idea for the game, or so I am led to believe. We also have Jeffrey on the show. Now, Jeffrey is Unbeatable's producer and level designer. They also handled all of the communication with me, so I'm going to say maybe they're over PR as well. Not entirely sure, but welcome Jeffrey to the show. And also we are welcoming RJ to the show, who is basically the game's main writer. It sounds like a lot of people on D-Cell wear a lot of hats, so all three of these people have pretty much touched a little bit of all different parts of Unbeatable, but it is a great conversation, and I think you guys are really in for a treat. Now, I will mention that this episode was recorded a few weeks ago, and a few of the dates have changed since recording, so you'll hear some March 26th and March 30th thrown around that really aren't accurate anymore, but by the time that this is out, so by the time you're listening to this, which should be on April 6th, everything is out. The Kickstarter is up, White Label, the demo of the game, is up. So yeah, go check out the Kickstarter, go check out White Label right now. Now on to personal plugs. Of course, you can always follow me at JakeyWakey on Twitter. That's JakeyWakey with 2 Y's at the end. And you can follow the podcast, Behind the Cutscenes, at Behind Cutscenes on Twitter. Don't have very much other housekeeping, guys. Got a few more episodes coming up later this month that I am very excited about, so stay tuned. But without further ado, let's get into a conversation about Unbeatable with a few of the people from D-Cell Games. So I found out about Unbeatable probably about a year ago. I think it's on your guys' Twitter page, the pinned video. One of my friends sent me that and it was like, hey, this game looks awesome and looks up your alley. And I was like, oh yeah, well, this game does look awesome. And I don't know why, but for some reason a week or two ago, when I emailed you guys, I was like, I wonder what's happened with that game. And that's why I went and looked, and now here we are. So wow, I'm really happy to have you guys here.
Couldn't have picked a better time.
I guess so.
We're doing great.
We're doing good. Kickstarter's doing its thing. Got that demo going.
Yeah. I guess we haven't actually talked about it since it hasn't been revealed as of this recording.
As of recording.
Listen, so we should probably just start out here with the full assumption and understanding that the Kickstarter's already launched. We've made that announcement, right?
Yes.
Everyone who is listening to this right now.
People from the future, nice to meet you. Hope you like the Kickstarter.
Right. I have no idea how the launch went. I have no idea how the announcement went over.
We actually might not even launch it because the Kickstarter is launching 4 days after. So they might be seeing it day of, and it's like, hey, so you're really looking forward to seeing what our Kickstarter is like. Well,
right. Regardless, the actual Kickstarter itself, people know that it exists. People know that it's a thing we're doing. At this
More
point.
clear, they will have access to the demo.
Yes. So you'll be able to play the game, or a version of the game, or something. You'll be able to play a .exe that has gameplay from Unbeatable inside of it.
It's not a demo, and we need to be very clear on this terminology because Steam does not like it.
Steam doesn't like it unless your life is strange.
Unless your life is strange and you're making Captain Spirit, they don't like it if you release a standalone game labeled as a demo. So we're calling it a playable teaser. we'll say.
Playable teaser or like a side game or something along those lines. It is so what basically the gist of it, if you've like played something like Lost Constellation, like the Night in the Woods thing, or I guess although it's literally called a demo, the Stanley Parable demo is not a demo for that game. It's something along those lines where it is its own game that kind of acts as
it's a supplement.
It's a supplementary game that has gameplay elements from the actual full thing, and kind of like acts as a prelude to that.
Yeah, it has its own bespoke story.
Right. It's not containing like the actual content of the game in any way. It's its own thing.
Would you say that it's kind of like an introduction to Unbeatable, maybe?
It is an introduction to some of the worlds and characters that you'll see in the game.
Yeah.
Exciting.
The version people will be playing at least between the 26th, that weekend, won't actually have that stuff yet. That stuff will come out on the 30th of the Kickstarter.
We're going to be releasing it in small chunks. I guess you could call it episodically.
Yeah, week by week is the plan right now.
So we'll be sending out a couple new songs, a little nibble of story in there too.
Nibble of story.
Awesome. To be clear, white label is a concept from basically records, where when they printed records for advertising distribution to like DJs, radio stations, things like that. Basically, what would happen is they would print a record that had like a blank white label on it for specifically that purpose, not for resale.
Just for promo.
Right.
To like get the record out there, to like, because there was no point in making it like look flashy since you're only sending it to DJs. So it kind of like became a colloquial term for like a promo single,
which is what
like this is basically what this
teaser.
Yeah, it's a promo teaser. Single that kind of gives the idea of what the game is.
Well, I mean that's awesome. I had no idea there was going to be like a playable teaser or anything with the Kickstarter. So I'm very excited to get my hands on this game. But I guess before we go any further, just for the audience sake, we should probably go through and would you guys each introduce yourselves and say what your role is at D-Cell or on Unbeatable?
Okay.
I'd say,
I guess we can start with you, Jeff.
So I'm Jeffrey, data and pronouns. I'm the game's producer and beat map designer. So I'm pretty much responsible for wrangling this team here, as well as just kind of like any business, PR stuff. If you see the Twitter, it's pretty much me 80% of the time. The other 20% is Rachel.
So I'm RJ. I do... I wear a lot of hats on this game. So like I always say I'm one of the creative leads because it's the broadest way to cover all of that. But like I do the writing on the game. I am the music supervisor. I help Andrew out by bullying him with like ideas that I kind of just yell at him until he puts them into the game. That's, I guess, what my role is technically. And then I handle a lot of the biz development, like biz dev stuff. I talk to like platform holders and I am doing a lot of like clerical stuff and design document stuff and like all of that. So
yeah, we pretty much, at least the two of us do that. All three of us kind of do that hand in hand.
Right.
Together,
we kind of like just co-work on all of those things. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm Andrew. I guess you could call me the director, if that's a thing on our team. I've basically got my hands into most of the pots, I suppose. I do the animation alongside our other animator, Taki. I do the programming alongside our other programmer, Mireille. I do all of the visual development on the game, all the concept art, and I also threw together the story concept that I sent to RJ to make good.
Yeah. So like Andrew and I kind of switch off between, I guess, like he and I both sort of write the game. It's hard to clarify the exact differentiation between directing and writing between the two of us.
Yeah. So for the most part, RJ handles all of the actual writing that you're going to see in the video game. So the dialogue that the characters say, those things. And RJ also handles some of the broader like character and story beats. But then on the broader sense, RJ and I kind of like share that responsibility of figuring out where the story is going, what the important beats are, where the characters are headed. And yeah, so in a broad sense, we'll work together on the writing, but Arch is handling most of the actual putting the words on paper.
Right. And then like, if you like look at like a design direction sense, like the combat concept is all Andrew, and like the general gist of how the game works and the entire aesthetic of the game comes from Andrew, as well as like, I guess what you'd call the story by credit, like the pitch for the game was also Andrew's. So there's a fairly 50-50 split of like how much work goes into it on from either side of us, but we have a lot of input together on.
Yeah, and our focuses are on the two different halves of that divide.
Yeah, exactly. So I like handle narrative design more, and Andrew handles like the actual moment to moment like action gameplay stuff a lot more. And then he also like is much more broadly responsible for the reason the game is good, I think, which is the visual stuff.
Oh, don't say that. The writing's good, RJ.
I mean, like,
obviously I don't know really much about the game outside of that, like the little trailers and stuff that I've seen, but I was definitely, I mean, I will say the thing that immediately caught my attention, and I think it's the reason why it was sent to me, was because of the art style. Yeah. Like I love like 2D animation and stuff like that. And the fact that this game at least appears to have like the character models and stuff be like more of a 2D animated style on a like more, you know, on a more grand scale like background. I just think it looks awesome. And also I love the art style mix of like kind of like anime inspired, but also like not, you know, I think it looks really awesome. But also in that trailer, the little bits of dialogue I could see seemed very funny and very intriguing. So those were the two things about the game that I guess caught my attention and was like, I need to keep an eye on this one.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the art only just gets better. Andrew like blows me away constantly. I'm actually a trained animator, and the stuff Andrew does shames me. So honestly, like this game did not look as good as it does now 2 years ago, and even then it looked amazing is like really the way I would describe it.
This project kind of single-handedly accelerated Andrew's growth on like basically a lot of the skills he's been trying to hone in for years. Like
this is just going to be us praising Andrew the entire time, by the way. I'm just going to just prelude this because he does amazing work and is like
everyone on the team does amazing work. RJ is a huge part of why this game works on like a musical level and also on just a story level. Like if I was the one writing this game, it would not have gotten together at all. There would have been no cohesion between any of the characters, and the writing would have been boring as hell.
You would have at least tried. That's
I would have tried, but me trying and me succeeding in the same way that RJ has.
I get really specific about really annoying details, and that's I think basically what I would describe. I don't know if there's a better way to describe how I do what I do with this, but I don't know. I guess the short form, without getting too in the weeds of like falling over ourselves, is D-Cell is very, very collaborative. Like, I mean, all indie studios are to a huge extent, but for us to exist and for this game to get made at all the way that it is and to be as good as it is, we need all of us. Like it really does need to be every person on the team.
Everybody's pulling double duty on something or other.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like a Venn diagram. Like everybody's like sharing and doing a lot of things
If there was a
together,
Venn
and
diagram,
everyone is kind of doing stuff together. It's a big Venn diagram.
if
let me
there was
tell
a
you.
Venn diagram of Unbeatable and all of the people who work on the various aspects of Unbeatable, it would pretty much just be a circle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I love to hear. It's so nice to hear like a team of people. It does seem like you guys all really respect each other, and I love to see people hyping each other up. So I love to hear it.
I think that if you have a team that really gels on like a more granular moment to moment level, I just described people like a video game, so that's where my head's at. If you have a team that gels on like a really deep level like that, you're going to have better work because people aren't afraid to say a thing. And that's so important. There's a lot of times when I've worked on projects where it just feels like 90% of the time you're walking on eggshells just trying to not offend the person in charge.
For sure.
And that, I mean, like, while I don't...
God knows I'm in a perpetual state of offense.
I mean, that's my fault. That's 100% actually my fault. I think that you just get better results. Look at it from the like mercenary cold level of like, okay, the end game. What's the game's result? What's like the quality level of your work output, and you don't really care about the work conditions. Even if that's all you care about, you're still going to have better results if you treat people well. Like it's a surprisingly important thing. Not that surprising, but some people might be surprised.
The real surprising thing is that like none of us knew each other before Unbeatable.
Right. That is actually the big crazy thing is that we all met through this game.
Apart from me and Jeff, we went to school together, and so coming out of that, we kind of formed this idea of making a game together back in 2018. So we sent out a few emails. We like made a post on Reddit. We sent out a tweet, and we sent out a few emails, and then RJ and our composers, TJ and Vass, they emailed us back, and we just gelled really well almost immediately. And that was that.
So I feel like I'm allowed to tell the story because it's a story that involves me about the start of that whole thing. But that was actually the initial blitz was just asking for composers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we needed people to make music.
We need people to make music for this music game, and I responded with the intent to just do music for the game, and then we had a lot of conversations. I think you said
the first call lasted maybe 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, it was a while. It was a while, and that was kind of a really dark foreshadow of what was to come on that. So I had a lot of conversations with the two of them, and then like a week later, after showing them a bunch of music and stuff that I thought was like a pretty good fit for the idea of what they were going for, they're like, yeah, so we don't like your music for this game, sorry, but we also kind of want you involved. Was the message, more or less.
That's a bit harsh.
I've never gotten a message like that. And I remember telling Rachel, I was like, this is the strangest callback I've ever received for any project. And from there, like we kind of over time settled into a role of me doing a lot of like music supervision stuff, because I was more experienced in leading music teams. I did a bunch of shit for. Am I allowed to swear? I just said a swear out loud.
For sure. Yeah,
okay.
no, for sure.
I just need to clarify. I don't know with some. All right.
Of course.
I did a bunch of things for Homestuck. I like led the team for Homestuck Volume 10 and had a lot of experience coming into Unbeatable from like doing that. So it just kind of was a natural fit to be like, okay, I understand story stuff. I know like the role that music has in narrative stuff. I don't even know if at that time was Unbeatable as narratively focused.
Unbeatable had
it had
little
a narrative.
It had little narrative, I think. Like we weren't too sure what to go with it.
So the entire gist was we were planning on making this game in like a year. See where that got us.
Oh boy. Yeah.
3 years later.
But yeah, so it had a narrative, but the narrative was just kind of set dressing between the songs. The entire game was going to be like 30 to 40 minutes. I think RJ during the call actually put it like we were making a concept album.
Yeah. I basically said like it would be very cool if we did like a game that just didn't stop. You just played through all the songs and it had like cutscenes and everything timed out, and it just kept going.
And then Sayonara Wild Hearts came out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Sayonara Wild Hearts literally 100% ended up being the thing that I pitched. And honestly, it did it way better than I think we would have done for that kind of thing. Because the type of game that we are making is just, it's not as elegantly built for that kind of setup. Like Sayonara Wild Hearts doesn't have any dialogue really, right?
Right.
And there's nothing really distracting you from that flow except for the fact that the game doesn't let you play it as one flow until the end, which, you know, there's that. But the game itself, like, it's just one solid thing. It's a stream. It's doing everything in its power to kind of like put you inside the music. And Unbeatable, it became very clear, was more focused on the narrative than that was even. Like I think this just became a thing that we like kind of all collectively decided over conversations. It wasn't like any one immediate moment that did that, but we were like, okay, there's clearly like a delineation between music and story moments, right? Or music and like a different type of thing that advances the narrative. And we kind of like slowly figured out what that was going to be over the course of like all of that time.
Unbeatable has been through so many revisions.
Yeah.
Every time that we have shown this game at a convention, it has been almost completely different.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We tend to do a thing where we cut the fat and then we add new fat.
But in several cases, cutting the fat was cutting the majority of the work and then starting from the ground up.
Right. But we always that stuff was crucial. Like we really did need all of those steps to get to the thing that the game is now.
Yeah. There is a steady like Theseus's ship style like progression between what we started out with and what we have now, even if none of those component parts are the same in any way.
Right.
Yeah. Like in retrospect, the game felt so much earlier than I think we thought it did when we started working on this. Like we had like it was pretty much like the first of like probably over 20 steps at that point.
The dreaded Discord message that RJ sent way back when we first started, where we were talking about having a 2020 release date.
I know. Andrew's never going to.
I'm never gonna
bring that up. Yeah. You're always going to bring that up. I said 2019 maybe. 2020 seems realistic though. Is literally what I said about this game, and now we're aiming.
To be fair, at that point in time, it did look like that was where we were headed.
Right.
The game was a lot smaller. We were in a completely different engine, and
we didn't know what we were making.
We didn't really know what we were making.
Yeah. It's like when you look at all the talks about like what Overwatch was before Overwatch was Overwatch, where it was like this MMO that had a completely different setup, and all of the like hero characters in the game were NPCs. It's basically that different is how Unbeatable was at this point.
At one point, we passed around the idea of having a visual novel where you advance the dialogue to the beat.
Yeah, actually, that was a very recent I brought that up again very recently. Like, not the same exact thing, but just the idea of, well, how do we, keep the music thread going, and just all of these things kind of just cycle through again, and we re-examine them. We don't like just throw anything away.
Yeah, all ideas are good ideas. They're just good ideas for different projects.
Well, the way I would say it is, all ideas, every idea is a bad idea. It's just execution that makes it good or bad.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, let me tell you, Death Stranding is a game where every idea is terrible, and the game is like one of the best games of that year. So what does that tell you?
That's true.
Hideo Kojima is really good at making his ideas shine.
He is really good at making his ideas.
That's the point, though. Yeah.
But that's the point I'm making. It's like, yeah,
yeah, we cycle through a lot of these same ideas over and over. RJ brings up a lot of new ideas that we also go through.
Random encounters.
We try things, we throw them away. We try things, we throw them away. We come back to things that were thrown away. It's like, yeah.
I would definitely stress though that at this point in the project, and particularly why we are kind of like, going at it again, especially this time of the year, is that like our vision for the project has probably been more locked down than ever. Like,
I mean, let us be clear. We're talking about this from a point of looking back. Like, the version of the game that exists now and that we're building is the version of the game that will ship. We know what the game is now, and that took like 2 years, but we are not just confident, but like 100% like committed to
our
that.
story is completely written out. We already know all of the events that are going to happen, when they're going to happen, where they're going to happen.
Awesome.
At this point, it's just implementation. We've got most of our systems locked down. So beyond minor tweaking of feel and visuals, nothing's going to like be different.
It's just about building it.
Yeah.
We just got to make the game easy.
For sure.
Yeah.
I guess it's funny. We've gotten like 30 minutes in to talking, and we haven't even. There could be people listening to this that have no idea what Unbeatable is. So I guess if someone like that is here and they've made it this far in, somebody give me a pitch of just what is Unbeatable. Like what's the pitch for the game?
Andrew, I've been talking a lot. I want you to do this.
Oh, you're just gonna throw it to me?
Oh yeah, I am. Because I'm the one who usually pitches the game. I'm the one who usually pitches the game, and I want you to do it.
Unbeatable is a narrative-based rhythm adventure where music is illegal and you do crimes.
There you go. That doesn't tell you anything about what the game is, though.
It's a rhythm game. It's a rhythm game. It's a rhythm game a la your Taikos or your Osus or your Beatmanias or whatever the heck. But we're layering on top of that really cool character action style visuals, cool boss fights, set pieces, and really, really thorough exploration sequences with a huge amount of narrative and character building, and just storytelling.
It's like if this is not accurate. This is just my wild insanity statement pitch, but the loosest, broadest version of like describing the kind of area this game exists in is, what if the skill checks in Disco Elysium were levels in Taiko Drum Master?
That sounds awesome.
That's not really true because we don't really do the skill check thing. We don't really do any of that. But the game has that much of a focus on the narrative. And like those elements are really important.
And a lot of words.
To be clear, if you wanted to play this game as a pure rhythm game, we also have an arcade mode. We're planning on having leaderboards in there, whatnot. But at its core, when you hit that story mode button on the main menu, you're gonna get story mode. You're not gonna get like some cheesy fighting game. It's a couple characters talking to each other, and then you do the fight, and then it ends. You're going through a fully fledged, multi-hour narrative where the characters grow and develop and reach a finality at the end.
Yeah, exactly. It will have structure, like it'll have substance. It's not gonna be
It's not like exactly like like a layer on top of a rhythm game. Like the rhythm game is basically existent because of this, right?
You've probably
Arguably, the rhythm game is the layer on top of the narrative.
In some ways, that's actually true. And we spent a lot of time making sure that rhythm combat gameplay it really works. That's like the thing that we probably spent over a year on at this point, I think, in total, just making good. Because
again, need to reiterate that you could totally play this game as just a straight rhythm game, but you are going to be missing out on probably 50 to 60% of the real meat of what you're paying for.
Yeah. And all that stuff is that's tuned to be good enough to just be its own thing. But the way that I kind of like talking about it is a lot of games like to compare themselves to movies, and the way that we sort of compare it, or the elements we compare it to are more early 2000s televised anime. It's more like a television show than a film, and we really do want that sense of place and framing. We think that kind of progression and pacing is important, and fits also with how games function, because you don't really play games all at the same time, all at one sitting most of the time. You're going to be
there'd be pretty defined points in the game where you could just put down and come back later.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and on the note of 90s anime, a lot of work has gone into making the game look like a worn VHS tape, fan translated, that you found in your public library.
Right. And there not only has there been so much work that Andrew's put into making this thing look right and feel right, it really does have the VHS the aesthetic of you threw on Digimon the movie. I say Digimon the movie and I grit my teeth through that sentence. I'll come back to that. But so it really does feel like one of those just thrown on the screen. We do have the ability, because we think it's important, to turn off the VHS filtering effects, to turn off all of the visual stuff if you want to. Because
if you want to, but I would highly recommend that if you can take it, we would. It really adds a lot, I think, in setting you in a specific time and space.
I'd also understand if people want that stuff off because it's distracting to them while playing the game, but I do think
not even distracting. I think that just it's an accessibility thing.
It's multifaceted. It's not just an accessibility concern. I can see people wanting it off for arcade mode, but I definitely think when people play the narrative, the narrative's visual style is going to click, especially with those effects on.
Right. It'll mentally put you in that space. We have basically spent 5 minutes talking about a shader. But it's a good shader.
I was gonna say that can be very important to the feel of the game. I mean, it's funny because that's what when you were saying you could turn it off. I almost wanted to be but the intended experience is that it's off.
I know, yeah, yeah. I mean, and sometimes you roll your eyes when people say that. While it is true, I'm not gonna yell at anyone who wants to play this game with just
everyone can play the game how they want to play the game. It's just that we highly recommend that you try out playing the game the way we would like you to play.
There is the part of me that wants to be the Nintendo and just say, this is the only way you're allowed to play this. You are not able, the way that Nintendo looks at something like Star Fox Zero, where I think that to that game's detriment they did that, but there's almost a brazen bravery in the amount of disrespect it has for the player. and there is a part of me that really wants to do that at all times, and I have to be well, no, that's not okay. That's not something that should happen.
And on the note of accessibility, we're putting in a lot of stuff to make sure that people are also able to experience the game, even if they might not be able to play the game as intended. Things like ways to get past the songs if you're unable to get past the rhythm sections. accessibility options for text if you're dyslexic, things like that. Just ensuring that, making sure that everybody who wants to play this game will at least have a fighting chance of being able to play it.
Right.
Yeah, because like it's pretty clear that like people are going to approach this game purely only interested in like the narrative and like the story, right? So like, because like rhythm games are really intimidating to people, which is like a surprising thing. I think we've all learned these past few years is people always starting their sentence of like what they have to say about the game of like, I don't like rhythm games, or like rhythm games make me really nervous or anxious, right? So like it is definitely a kind of thing of what can we do to kind of mitigate that, at least if you just want to play the story for white label. We're going to add an accessibility feature in white label that will be present in the final game, which is like our equivalent of like an autoplay mode. So
to be clear, not every accessibility feature that we're planning on putting into the full game will be in white label on launch. We will try to add those in over time. By the time the full game comes out, everybody who can play Unbeatable will be able to play Unbeatable white label. But thanks to time restraints leading up to it, we're only able to put in some of the broader things that
again, the most specific thing is autoplay mode, so we'll like basically let you play through the song. The idea though is that if you decide to make an input while you're playing, it will actually
the game intelligently
input.
decides where to place your input, how to have you hit that note properly.
But yeah, we have like a no fail like thing you can do, and
that
all
is
those
basically
different-
it,
and of course all of the visual clutter, I suppose you could call it, you will be able to disable, or maybe not future tense, you are able to disable.
Right, we should be talking about this in the now.
Present tense.
So right, if you want to download the game, you can do that right now.
It'll be on itch. I think the day this podcast comes out on the 26th.
I think it might be on Steam as well right now.
No, Steam version will be available.
Steam will be
the 30th?
when the Kickstarter launches on the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is going to be a bit of a delay.
I'm sorry for clearing. I figured I'd just make it clear that even if we wanted to, I actually can't launch it on the 26th because of Steam restrictions. Like the latest day we could launch is the 28th, I think, or 29th.
That's fine. Yeah. No.
It's whatever.
Steam is a whole thing.
Steam is a thing.
I have some grievances. Because I've already shipped.
You are not the only one who has the grievances with Steam.
Plenty of people do, but I'm just saying, as someone who's like recently shipped like several games on Steam, like in the past 2 years or so, like, oh my god, am I like especially furious about some of the things
I am fascinated by like whether or not the stuff with Steam will come to a head at any point, because like every storefront is better than Steam now, pretty much at this point.
As of today, yes. Actually, literally as of today, I don't know if you know this, but Apple and Google Play officially cut their revenue, like the revenue split that they take from developers to 15%, making Steam the only like big platform to do that.
Aside from like consoles, but that's it. Consoles have a different benefits.
Consoles have a different market, so I guess that makes sense. But the thing with
consoles,
Steam,
you're paying for access to the specialized hardware.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying for access to the hardware, and also just like the player bases are much larger on consoles half the time.
Right.
Especially on Switch, like you are going to sell more on Switch if your game is suited for that platform than you would on anything else. And so like that bigger cut makes sense there. Whereas on Steam, they just get away with it because they are the largest PC platform and they have the momentum of like all of that. And there are things that are good about Steam, and especially regarding like the ease of patching and updating is so much better on that platform than on anything else.
Steam also has one of the better user experiences when it comes to what you can actually do with your games once you own them.
Right.
Because a lot of other platforms have either more restrictive DRM or lack of certain community features that I know a lot of people on Steam love using. So there is that benefit as well. But on the developer side of things, there's very little incentive other than that audience.
Other than the audience that's get there because of that. Yeah.
And then like I figured I should mention Steam does actually slash like the revenue split they take from you, but that's only if you make money. That's only if you make a lot of money.
$10 million is the number.
It's like
Yikes.
completely backwards, and it's completely useless to those people in question. So like, I just don't get it.
I mean,
Well,
that's probably why the Epic Games Store is doing
That
so
was
much
their
better
response.
now.
That was their response to the Epic Game Store was the worst thing. That whole like, oh, like if you make a lot of money, we'll cut your revenue split. Please don't leave to Epic and like your own store platforms. Don't do it.
Well, that's the
and
thing.
They did anyways.
What's ironic, or not ironic, what's funny, I guess, or appropriate is the stuff we're talking about with Apple cutting to 15% is also related to an Epic thing. Like this is not me giving undue praise to them or saying, oh, Epic is like a guiltless company, because they're one of the largest like multi-billion-dollar corporations on the planet. But they have been, for selfish reasons partially, but also just in general, one of the key reasons that like these splits have been becoming more developer friendly over time. Like their whole thing with Fortnite on Apple is the reason that Apple did that.
Right.
And you know, it's good that they can, because nobody else is able to do this. So
For sure.
It's you know, thankfully someone is actually doing that. But yeah.
Right.
But yeah, to get back on topic,
We got way off topic.
We really did.
So it'll be out on Steam. White Label will be out on Steam on the 30th, which if you're listening to this on the 30th, please go to Steam and download it, because there's going to be some more content in there.
Yep.
Ooh.
Plenty of content on there. The week
I
one release has a bunch of stuff, and I don't think, or we're not going to talk about that. Because this is going up on the.
I think we can specify the like kind of like demo-y stuff that we're including, but not the actual white label narrative or like
so
extra
for the
songs we're
record,
adding.
if you're playing this on the 26th, you'll have access to the arcade mode.
Right.
If you play it on the 30 on itch or Steam, whichever platform that you choose, you will also have access to one of the set pieces from the game. It's a little sequence, a chase sequence set on a train where some wild stuff happens, and lots of work went into it to make that.
All of that is set to music. So, you know, it's basically a proof of concept for the whole like narrative mode in general. Outside of like kind of there's a lot of like walk and talk stuff and general exploration stuff that you might not see on the 30th, but you'll be able to see like a lot of that in our trailers. We'll have like gameplay videos about all of that stuff.
And if you keep your game up to date, maybe you will see some of that. You will see some of that. So we're going to be updating that, as we mentioned, like week to week, and you'll see some of that stuff going forward.
Heck yeah.
It's certainly an ambitious project, I'd say.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
What was the process like of coming to the decision of launching a Kickstarter? Like what led you to decide, okay, we need to get this on Kickstarter?
There's only a bit that we can talk about. But in vague terms, basically, we've been working on this game for a few years now, fully self-funded. We have had no monetary influx for the majority of that time. And then following a recent amount of cash that we got from a friend of ours, we have basically put our heads down and gotten to work on making a Kickstarter so we can all start getting paid for real this time.
Money, basically.
For sure.
That's what Kickstarter is for. You know, and
COVID has kind of accelerated this because a few of the members on the team lost their jobs, aren't able to work full or part-time anymore at a day job to make up for the lost income. So at this point, this Kickstarter is really going to be the main source, if not the only source of income for some of these people. So We're really working hard to make sure that these people get the due for the work that they've done, which is a lot, and it's all good.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, we are we are in a position of not having a lot of funding going around in game space, and so it is important to have things like Kickstarter still available, and it's not where it used to be, but if you handle a Kickstarter right, you can still kind of get something out of it. 9 times out of 10 people will look at Kickstarter as almost just a way to advertise their game. And in a way, like, that's still an important avenue for what it is, but I don't think you're going to get the same benefits you will if you're actually like coming to it with a serious need for what it is there for, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling about.
The point being, it really mean a lot for people to stick it in.
Please fund our game, please.
At this point, we're just gonna be like begging for money on this podcast.
We swear this means good.
I mean, honestly, I would be very surprised if the game didn't do well, because everything that I've seen, like I said, this game looks amazing, and I really can't wait to get my hands on it. So I don't know, knock on wood, I guess, but I have a feeling it'll go your way.
Well, thank you.
I
appreciate the vote of confidence.
I think, personally speaking, as the person overseeing this project, I'm pretty confident, for sure. I can't say I'm not. That would be really weird to say publicly, but I am actually really confident about our work. It's just like a matter of like making sure we really get that together and can make it on a day.
We're recording this beforehand, so I have no idea what the public reaction to this is going to be.
Yeah, no, zero
knowledge of anything.
I'm just
we're still putting the
confidence.
finishing touches on the demo that you're probably currently playing right now. So we don't even know how that's going to end up.
We're editing like the videos you're going to be seeing on the page. Finalizing all the text and talking to people about hopefully like getting this stuff out there. All of those things are things that we are doing right now to make this Kickstarter work out.
Yeah. I'm purely speaking from confidence there. Like, I don't know. No one knows.
If it goes well, good job us. If it doesn't go well, let's hope it goes well.
I think I actually literally wrote a joke to that extent. Not in the Kickstarter itself, but like there's a gameplay video, like gameplay description about it, and I literally said, I think like when she loses all of her health, well, let's just hope she doesn't lose all of her health. Is I think the way that it's phrased in the early so I don't know if that's gonna make it into the final script, but we are gonna have a gameplay like explainer video on there.
That'll be a lot of fun too. Yeah.
So
really
a little quick question, something that I was just wondering is, you mentioned at the beginning that it kind of started as a concept album type idea where it would be pretty short. Do you have any idea like how long the game might end up being?
Oh yeah, we're looking at around 5 hours, maybe less, maybe more, give or take something.
But really, the course of development's going to determine.
The ballpark right now is about that length. We don't know an exact time because we're still making the game. It might be longer, it might be shorter. Depends on the need. Depends on pacing.
I think like a good ballpark is 5 to 7 hours, depending on like your speed, how fast you go through things, how like how much you like to look at like side content. Things like that are going to really determine like the pace and speed of the game. But I don't think it's going to be much longer than that at all.
Yeah, if anything, it might be shorter.
It might be shorter. Yeah.
But
it's going to be dense. The thing that I say when I'm like talking about this is, while it might be 5 hours long, there'll be like 30 hours of content in it.
The other thing that we say a lot is it's okay to miss content.
Yes. So that's a big philosophy of ours. is it's totally fine if a player doesn't see something. And to that effect, it is impossible to see all of the content in this game through one playthrough. And that's not a thing that like we are making a big deal of in the game itself. Okay, either. Like you will not know when you've missed the things that you've missed, because the way that it works is you will like go through an interaction with something and it could have gone one way, but you're not going to see all like the myriad versions of that conversation. You're not like replaying conversations constantly to see how it worked. You just had a conversation with a character.
A lot of our conversations don't do the thing where you can talk to somebody and they'll say the same lines over and over. Most of the conversations are like normal conversations where once you say something, you've said it.
Yeah, right. And the game remembers like the flow of all of that. It's you know, keeping track of all of the things you've said in a pretty real way. You know, through a lot of state machine work and things like that. And we are very focused on like making sure all that stuff tracks and is detailed and doesn't like fall apart.
To be clear, I don't want to make it seem like the game is going to have multiple endings,
No.
because the general structure of the game is going to be pretty similar regardless of what you do, but a lot of the details are going to be different, in some cases very different, depending on who you talk to, the side quests that you do.
What you say to people.
What you say to people. Yeah. So
and
there will be variation, just not on like a macro scale, more on like a mid to micro scale.
Right. Yeah. We're very into like there's a kind of overarching thing with like game narrative writing that's like a big I guess not trend, that's not the right word, but there's a talking point you see with a lot of to make interactions feel significant or make choices feel significant. And in our game, the way that we approach it is it's more accurate to say that the choices are significant, but they are small. Does that make sense? Like
for sure.
They matter, but they actually do matter. It's not like a fake thing. It matters to how the game unfolds, but on a very small, granular level. Like you're not going to see like big, massive changes because in real life, you're not really in charge of the big, massive changes that happen to you anyway, most of the time.
Right.
Outside of things that like you direct, you're not in charge of like who becomes the president on your own. That's something that happens around you. And that's kind of like what the actual overarching narrative stuff that happens around you that you react to, and you are in control of how you handle them.
Yeah,
for sure.
To put it another way, we have a linear story, but every time you play through, it'll unfold a different way.
Yeah, there you go. That's a
that's a pretty good way of putting it.
Yeah,
and also, I think people are going to be nervous by like that lower hour count. That personally worries me, but I do know for sure, on top of being able to replay the game if you want to see different like kind of those small micro kind of like outcomes, the game's arcade mode is pretty hefty because it's going to include basically every song from the game and then some. And
if we hit a certain Kickstarter tier, we're also going to be putting out a level editor if you would like to try your hand at making some maps.
Make better ones than I do.
So really once you finish the story mode, aside from playing through it again, there will be a plethora of content if you're really digging the rhythm game side of things.
Yeah.
See, and that's something that I kind of hate in modern gaming is how a lot of gamers conflate like a game's length to how much it's worth. Because I just think that that's not true at all. Because you can put a lot of time, you can put hundreds of hours into certain games and they just not be good at all. But then you can have one game that, you know, is 4 or 5 hours long, but it's all amazing. And you're going to like that one game more than the super long game anyways.
That's what we believe in. I personally like a short experience is long, but just like whatever feels right for the game, you know?
Right.
Also on top of that, I gotta tell you, 9 times out of 10, I will look at a game's how long to beat these days, and if it's super long, that is actually a turnoff for me.
Same.
Because it's like part of this is just I do not have the time anymore to sink into something that's super meaty, and a short and sweet experience that's really well tuned tends to serve me better in my life right now.
For sure.
I mean, like even I'm into short experiences, especially when they're designed to be short. And I'm a person I'm like a JRPG head, you know. Like I put a lot of hours into the games that I do play, on the orders of hundreds. So like, you know, even though I appreciate longer games, right, and I do understand that kind of mentality of like, you know, kind of like if you correlate this to like a movie theater ticket, you know, you're like, oh, I'm paying $16 for this IMAX ticket for, you know, 2.5 hours of my life. Like I even if you do abide by that, which is kind of it's understandable to hold that belief, I think, even if I would disagree with it. Like I do think that if a game is designed to be short, like ours is designed to be short and dense and impactful in the time span that it has, it's not like that game would be any better if it was longer, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and I also think like, you know, that's worth any kind of price, a valuable experience to somebody who like resonates with that game, right? Like the cost for that could be anything, and if it still works, I think it's worth the price.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I think this has been a great conversation and a really great little dive into Unbeatable and the team at D-Cell. Do you guys have any kind of closing thoughts or anything that you want to give to the audience about the Kickstarter or the game?
I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy
seriously.
What we put out. Yeah.
Like we have put so much work into this, and we are very excited to see what people finally think about it.
Back it if you can. But honestly, I think the biggest takeaway here is just have fun. I hope you like it.
Yeah. We really put our all into this game. Like I'm really proud of this team and like really believe in everyone's work and this project itself. So I really hope I wouldn't want to say I really hope it gets to do, but I do, right?
Right.
I do really want to see this to the end.
For
more
sure.
than anything I've ever worked on in my life. So
something that I can say as like an outsider is just you guys are so genuine. You know, I can really tell that you guys care about this project and that you really want to succeed. And that means a lot to I think the public, you know. I think that's going to serve you guys very well.
I hope so. I feel like me talking honestly has gotten me into trouble more than it has gotten me out. But we'll see what happens. I would love for people to click with this, and like I mean, like really, there's not much more to say than that.
For
sure. Yeah,
we'll just have to see what happens.
Pretty much.
We're looking forward to seeing what happens as much as everyone else.
I feel like I am very inclined to not be overconfident about the game.
Right.
Just because I don't want to I don't want to get false hope about like whether or not this thing's going to do well or not. And I think in my brain, like I can't be in a headspace where I'm expecting anything
for sure
going into this. So I'm hoping that there's really good news coming when this Kickstarter launches. And
I'm with you there for sure.
For sure. Final things. I forgot to mention this earlier. Go ahead and plug your guys' like social media or you know the website or wherever people can find you guys.
So you can go to www.unbeatablegame.com. As of today, you should also be able to go to unbeatabllegame.com/Kickstarter. And that should take you directly to our Kickstarter page.
Yeah, please do that.
That's the more important thing.
Else. Yes.
Yeah, that has links to everything as well. We have our Twitter as well at D-Cell Games. That includes links to our Discord. It will also be another place on top of like the Twitch stream, right, where you will be able to check out our teaser trailer, and we'll post like all information on the game there. Basically, I want to say almost every day of the month. So keep an eye on that Twitter.
Yeah, no, we're going to be updating that very frequently. from the time you're able to hear this,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be
And
busy.
also, if you want to reach out on personal social media, I suppose. Jeff over here. They're at Comet Melting on Twitter.
Comet
Underscore melting. Yeah. I'm at Pixel Havoc. That's with 2Ks. And RJ is at Spellbang.
Yeah, at Spellbang. Havoc, it's HOHAVOKK, by the way. There's no C in Havoc.
Yes.
I want to clarify that.
It is a username that I made a long time ago, and I can't bring myself to change it anymore.
Did on mine.
But yeah, that's Andrew's. And he never tweets.
I never tweet. I tweet occasionally, but it's very.
When you do tweet, it's good. When you do tweet, they're usually really good. You never tweet. That is something that hopefully does change. Maybe.
I'll try.
Maybe not. Twitter's terrible. Like Twitter's the worst.
It really is.
I don't blame you if you don't tweet a lot. Seriously, like it's
Like any statement of me trying to say to tweet more is just selfish because I'm on there and I have a horrible masochistic tendency to look at it constantly. So I want.
As someone trying to like get into like journalism, I'm actively encouraged to tweet more because they're like, you have to have an active presence on Twitter if you want to make it in journalism. And I'm like, but I hate social media so much.
It's kind of true though. You kind of have to have it. Listen,
it's true.
As what I've said before, and I don't think this is my original thought. I feel like I like heard this from someone else and then just forgot where I heard it. But Twitter is just LinkedIn without the things that make LinkedIn bad, but with a lot more things that make Twitter worse. Like it's so crucial now in every industry besides like if you're in like a food service industry or any kind of like service worker or something else, I guess it's not as important. But if you're in any kind of creative field or like even if you're doing like a regular desk job, Twitter ends up being weirdly crucial, and it's frustrating that it is so crucial.
Which is one of those reasons why I feel like I need a tweet, and yet it never happens.
It's okay. I just already see a lot of furry art and posts like really bad memes. So you're welcome.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the Kickstarter go live.